Welcome back, diners, to the 16th episode of Dinner for Wolf, where we live the adage, if it bleeds, we can review it. Now, we've been bouncing around doing a Predator for a while. Now, we figured let's start at the very beginning. The very beginning. So let's begin the hunt. I'll be your host, the Redditor. Not a user of Reddit, but like the pun on Predator. And I'm joined by...
Nablu.
And Grey Meat.
So let's talk about Prey, a movie that came out this year under 20th Century Studios. Distributed by Hulu and parent company Disney+. It was directed by Dan Trachtenberg, known for 10 Cloverfield Lane, not the original Cloverfield, and recently The Boys. It's also written by Patrick Eisen, known mainly for his recent Jack Ryan series. It went straight to streaming, even though it had been in production for about 4 years. It started almost immediately after the last Predator movie, the one that made the connection between Predator movies and autism. Its budget was about $65 million. In perspective, one episode of the latest Lord of the Rings on Amazon cost $58 million. What are your thoughts on that?
Fritz.
What was that?
It's a difference, I'll tell you. Like, I don't know what else to make of that. The contrast is stark.
Yeah, a 4-year production and a full feature film length, and it costs less than one episode of Rings of Power.
Yep.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Most things on this planet cost less than one episode of Rings of Power.
Now, Rick, I have not watched Rings of Power yet. Did they just go back full Peter Jackson? Like, we have 10,000 extras in full costumes? Like, why is it costing so much?
I don't know why. Well, I mean, I know we're on a tangent here, but apparently Bezos is a huge Lord of the Rings fan. So once they got the rights, but they didn't get the rights to Silmarillion, and they had to use like the appendix of Lord of the Rings as their text, which is that's a fact. He ended up having them throw so much at it. It has already been renewed for 5 seasons, and
Lord.
season 1 cost around $1 billion.
Wait, what?
Yes, they spent almost $1 billion
$1
on season 1. It's the most expensive show ever made.
That is literally 1% of Jeff Bezos' entire fortune. All right, so Prey, pretty recent movie. It had the trappings of a major, motion picture. Again, whether it was COVID or just how streaming services are kind of doing like a Mad Max thing, where they're all kind of versus each other, trying to one-up each other. So, not a bad movie. Again, production, acting, CGI, all of it, fairly good.
Yeah, there's some...
Go ahead.
There are some really, really hot takes if you look right now on the internet at reviews of this. Like, there are a lot of people who are saying that this is the best Predator movie and like better than the original. I think we should reserve our judgment until a little bit later. But
yeah, agreed.
But some seriously hot takes, and as of right now, it's got a higher Rotten Tomatoes rating than the original. So critically, it is doing better.
It wasn't bad. I'm worried about our conversation about it because is it going to be glowing with praises, or do you have some things that you want to kind of talk about? Let's hope we have something interesting.
But I also like the movie. Like, it was solid. I think, you've got, and we get into this a little later too. You've got some of the, there's some backlash to the positive reviews of it, some of which probably has to do with the fact that it's a female protagonist. And some of that probably has to do with the fact that they got an actual Native American to play a Native American woman, which I suspect some people are not happy about because people are awful. But some of it, like, some of it could just be people who like the original movie and are nostalgic. So I don't think it's all nefarious. But
so, as per usual, we do a quick rundown so that everyone can kind of remember what happened and think about kind of the things that they want to say. So, I don't know if anybody wants to time this because I always time you guys.
Yeah, I'll set a timer right now.
All right. So here's
all right, I'll count you down.
Okay.
All right, and 3, 2, 1.
This is the story of Naruto and her quest to be king of the Honkages. No, hold on, I'm thinking of something else. We open in 1719, somewhere in Alberta, with our main character Naru and her dog Sari. It starts with her flexing at her hunting and gathering skills, but she breaks away from her practice of axe throwing when a stag appears. She almost gets him, but a big boom from a shooting UAP scares it off. The next scene, she's with Chad Thunderbird, her brother, and she says that she's got a sign that she has to take on the great hunt called the Kutamaya. where Comanches hunt for something that hunts them. Her brother tells her that she's not ready. Flash to Mom in the tent. They talk about medicines and why Naro wants the hunt, because everyone tells her she can't. Screw that. This axe is made for chopping, and that's just what she'll do. Her mom reminds her to get some orange flowers, which is important. Take note. Predator gets dropped off by his parents, and he goes around murdering various animals. Back to Naro. One of her tribesmen has been kidnapped by a lion, the mountain variety. Rufio, a chauvinistic hunter, and her brother go after them. They almost shoot Naro by accident, but her brother says she's cool because she knows medicine and lion poop. They find the wounded guy. She uses the orange flower to cool his blood. Take note. But Naro is worried that whatever scared the lion is worse than the lion. Predator's still predating. Naru and her brother team up and fight the lion, but she gets knocked out. Next scene, Naru feels like crap because she's useless. Her brother comes back with a lion head, and they make him Master Chief. Naru knows there's something out there, so she goes to get him. Predator MMAs a bear in front of her, and she escapes. She gets caught by the chauvinistic Wasabe, Rufio looked like. He tells her she sucks. They fight, and she wrecks him. Predator cuts them all apart. She escapes. She gets caught by Frenchies. They use her and her brother as bait. He's caught too. Predator ain't down with that, cuts the Frenchies apart. Only Naru and her brother are left. They fight Predator Daddy. Her bro gets some good shots in, but ultimately gets backstabbed for critical damage. Naru takes the orange pill, so her blood is ice cold. Fights the Predator in a swamp, and uses his own arrows against him. Shoots him with the guns she got from the one OK Frenchie. She becomes Master Chief. More Predators come to pick up their kid. The end.
All right, you came in just under 2 minutes. That was a minute 53.
That was like half the length of mine, granted on a much shorter movie. So great on a curve. That was good.
Nice.
This movie was relatively short, about 100 minutes total.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go ahead and call that a positive. Like, I'll have some stuff about things that could have been fleshed out a little bit more, but I think overall, I think a lot of movies flesh out too much, and I'd rather it be like a little too tight than a little too long. And yeah.
I feel like this was like a movie in two parts. There was like 15, 20 minutes of establishing who the characters are, establishing the relationships, the goals and aspirations, and the society. And then it's like just this like 63-minute sprint that never lets up in the right way.
Yeah.
And it ends right when it should.
Yes. And the end credit stuff also ended right when it should. We'll get to that.
Runtime, timing, and pacing, all pluses on this one.
And I'm going to say, because if you're like me, you're wondering this right from the start. I think I texted this to Gray like 5 minutes into the movie, that dog better be okay. I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. The dog's okay. Watch the movie in peace.
Yep.
Apparently, that dog was a adopted stray from a shelter, so not even a trained dog.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
And apparently, the dog was a little rough to work with, but good enough. And it seemed like there was a professional acting dog, like in the scenes.
Yeah. I was gonna say it didn't look like it wasn't trained. When you say rough to work with, you mean you just like it couldn't do stuff, not that it was like unfriendly or something. Or
like he was just like a dog,
untrained, not unfriendly.
Right. Yeah. It looked kind of pit bullish, which are very cuddly dogs actually. So that's fine, but it's hard to tell from just the face.
Yeah.
But
the
dog was good.
Or good,
the dog
good
was
girl.
fine.
Good girl all around.
Yeah, the dog is female.
Yeah.
So, and also another kind of plus, like most of the actors, at least the main actors that weren't kind of the antagonists, were all tribe. I don't know if they were American tribe or Canadian, because this entire movie was shot in Alberta.
I think the lead was Native American. Played Comanche. I don't know. She was a different tribe, but I think she was American.
Yes, and you're right that a lot of the cast were indigenous people who were not already actors.
Right.
And this is the first Hollywood movie, I believe, that one of the audio dubs is you can watch the movie completely in Comanche.
Really?
Yes. Yep. For some reason, I forget why, it's not in, like, if you go on Hulu and you go to watch the normal version, it'll have like English, French, Italian, like the ones you're used to seeing for audio dubs. There's a totally separate listing in Hulu for the one with Comanche audio.
Like a logistic thing for like, we have a setting for all our boilerplate stuff, and we had to make a different one for just this movie.
It's probably some like under the hood tech reason, but you could watch this movie in all audio in Comanche, and no Hollywood movie's ever done that before.
And I'll say this: there's some actors that like aren't terrific, but like I wouldn't say there's like any wow, that person's a bad actor in this movie. Like it's well acted. The lead actress is really good.
Yeah.
Her brother was solid. Like I think she carried him through a few scenes, but he was
Yeah.
solid. You know.
I don't think he was a professional actor. I think that
Yeah,
guy's
but but he wasn't like it's like it's like the dog not being trained. It wasn't obvious to me that like, oh, this person's not an actor. Like it didn't jump out at me.
Yeah, they pretty much picked like the person that had like the strongest jawline. They're just like, okay, you're in the movie now.
Yeah, it's like, are you already skinny? Cool. Can you lose 5 pounds? Cooler.
Right, exactly.
Can you still be jacked? Excellent. Like right, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I didn't look it up, but I'm pretty sure the main actress in this was like a Disney Channel kid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think she's been
her
acting
name
for
is
a
like,
while. Like
I think she was also in
Mid-Thunder?
another. Yeah, Mid Thunder. She was also, I think, in another one of his movies. I think
Really?
it might have been either one of the Jack Ryan series or one of the Cloverfield series. But yeah,
Looking around.
a lot of the acting and everything was pretty top notch for what was like. They chose the right scenes for those actors. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and I'll say that, and then like the movie overall, and I think this kind of gets to, I don't know if we want to go to like what worked or what didn't work, whatever first, but I think a lot of like people comparing this original Predator, I think you make a case that like as a movie, just you're watching a movie, you don't know what the Predator series is, whatever. I think you make a case that this is a better like film. I think there's so much that's built up in what we think of as Predator and so much nostalgia for Predator that I'm not sure it's a better Predator movie, but I think it might be a better like movie film picture. Like a piece of cinema. Like I'm not, this is me hot taking not having rewatched Predator recently. So I'm not making this definitive, but
yeah, I'm trying to
you
wrap
know.
my head around it, and I'm not sure where I land on that one yet, but I will land on that by the end of this pod.
Right. Because so much of Predator is it's Arnold and Carl Weathers and the handshake and Jesse Ventura is there, and like it's just so much a creature of that movie in that time that it's just hard to.
It's a very distinct type of action movie.
Yeah.
So it's
like.
So what I liked about this, like again, there was like definitely a good nuance of writing. Like they chose this scenario and like this kind of type of predator as well. Like the Comanches are hunters too. And the whole like kind of parallel between like Naru having to go through like this proving hunt. And then you have a predator who's also probably doing the same thing. Like if you know any of the lore of the predator, right?
Right.
He's also
He's probably on his first real hunt.
Yeah, he's not only like going down and like being a predator, of course. He's not just like a Jason or a Freddy, Like there's a very distinct reason why he's down there. He's only killing very distinct things.
Right.
And the gear that he has, even though they have like light speed travel, right? They're just like, all right, you get a stick, you get 2 sticks.
Right.
All right.
You can be invisible, which I'll get to that later. This is not a knock on this movie. This is a knock on like the Predator franchise.
Yeah.
For a thing that's all about prove your mettle, do a hunt, but you can be invisible. Strikes me as not sporting.
In the other Predator movies, like when they're versed, like men who have like guns and stuff like that, like they have some pretty high tech stuff. Like the shoulder cannons are usually like literally like bazookas. And like laser things. I mean, there's a scene where like he mines the French people, like he like nukes them for some reason.
That was great. I thought I thought it was gonna be a nuke. I'm like, whoa, what are these little flechette helicopters? What's going on here?
It might have been. Like,
they're like little like airburst like shrapnel bombs.
Yeah.
And I'll say, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, like, I mean, that's the one time in the movie where he's attacked by a whole bunch of guns at once.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to me in that moment that like that's when he would use his most lethal thing, because like okay, you leveled up the technology you're using on me, I'll level up my technology by 1.
Well, and that brings me to a thing with like I think it was the right thing. It was like subtle enough that it wasn't like shouted at you, but I think it was meant for everyone. They expected everyone watching the movie to get it. Was there's different things hunting each other, and each threat is a metaphor for each other threat, kind of in a way. Like early on, they're like, what's hunting the buffalo? Is it a mountain lion? No, it's these French people. Well, maybe it's this predator. Like, and they all they all interact
Well-
with each other. They all are an invasion of some type and a threat to someone else's way of life that's like transitive up the chain. The Frenchmen are hunting the buffalo or messing her life. Frenchmen being hunted by the predator, but also her. Like, yeah.
Speaking of things hunting each other, one thing I liked, even though it's a very short and like just like clearly made for popcorn consumption, was
Yeah.
the scene where they showed like the things hunting each other in sequence.
Yeah.
Where it
Yes,
was like,
yes.
what was it? It was like,
It was a gerbil like eating a cricket.
yeah, that's what yeah, so it was a cricket hopping, and then like the rat eats or the mouse or whatever eats the cricket.
Yeah.
Then the mouse is like hanging out, and then it gets eaten by a snake. And then the snake is trying to swallow the mouse, and the predator chops his head off.
Yeah.
Like,
And
you're
then
just like
skins
this
it.
cool little
But here's
like.
the thing: the predator doesn't chop the snake's head off until the snake like rears and like attacks. The
That's
predator,
right. Yep.
Right,
That's
right,
right. That's
right.
right.
So there's this scene where like you have to think like the predator, of course, is like titular character, but is he the antagonist? Like in the sense that of like in the original Predator movie, of course he's the antagonist. He's the one hunting Arnie, right?
Right.
But in this one, like he's just hunting everything. Everything has just fair game. Anything that has a weapon, like and Naru's kind of just hunting in general.
Yeah.
She just wants to show everyone that she can take this character.
And the point of it too, where they do the obvious thing early on, where she's so she's being hunted early on, all that. Like there's incidents before. The first time she comes like face to face is when she's running from it, and she gets caught in like the bear trap or whatever trap from the fur, I guess beaver trap probably from the fur trappers, and it sees her. They kind of get up close for the first time, and she's not a threat, so they don't go bother all that. That happens a lot through the movie in a bunch of different ways, which is a constant theme in Predator. In Predator 2, you had the she's pregnant, can't, not honorable, whatever. But this was a better version of that.
Oh, and
So-
speaking of which, we have a direct thread line to Predator 2 because
We do.
Yeah.
we do.
that gun is the gun
Yes.
that gets handed to Danny Glover at the end of
Yes.
Predator 2 as a
Yes.
prize.
They had to
Yes.
retcon some stuff though, because they're the original. Like they did a comic of that where
Yep.
the gun is actually a
Yep.
pirate, a pirate's
they-
pistol. But I think one of my favorite parts is when the predator is fighting the dog for some reason, like the wolf. Like it's such a goofy fight. Like
Yep.
like the
Yeah,
like, the
that
dog is,
that
like,
dog
fighting
was
the
not
predator.
okay. That dog
Yeah.
was not okay.
Wait, oh, you're talking with the coyote or
wolf.
wolf or
The
whatever?
coyote,
Yeah,
the coyote
yeah,
or
yeah.
wolf thing, right? Like they're facing off, and it's like a kind of like a samurai movie, right? Where like the dog is lunging and the predator lunges, and then like the dog like kind of stumbles, and then its head falls off.
Right. Well, and back to the other thing I was saying, I forgot to finish my thought. Where, Gray, you said it, or maybe it was Red, that it didn't attack the snake until the snake reared up. Like the reason it's like not moral ambiguity, but just like you said, shows the predators just hunting things that are threats only. Like it left her alone until she's like, no, I'm killing this thing because it is my challenge to make my tribe thing. Everyone had to be like actualized against the predator for it to go after them. So that's more explicit in this movie than I think all the other Predator movies. It's a thing in every Predator movie, but they were more deliberate about it in this one, I think.
Yeah, I think there's no, this is headcanon only, but I think there's a read on this movie where you could look at this as two different ways, or really they could converge. That yes, this could be this Predator's first big excursion, or like is kind of blooding, in which he's going and hunting something that can hunt him back, as part of like the Predator like
Right.
growth cycle or whatever,
Yeah.
or evolution. But there's also the read that maybe this is the first time a predator ever came to this planet,
Yeah,
and
it
he's
has
trying
no
to
idea.
find out what is this planet's apex predator. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
like what
That's a good
is which species, which creature is my opposition on this planet? Because I'm here to fight the bad. Like he wants to be the baddest dude in the galaxy, and he's got to go
Yeah.
fight the baddest dude in Earth Letterkenny.
Well, in the first,
He's to make sure he's a bad enough dude to rescue the Predator president, so he's got to fight all
Right.
these ninjas.
So he's trying to figure out
Right.
who's Earth's baddest dude.
Yeah. Well, there's in the first scene where the predator is kind of observing Naru and her brother when they're fighting the cougar. Like
Mhm.
from a long distance, like he watches them fight each other. He doesn't interfere. He's just kind of watching. So
Right.
and then but the scene where like he just fights other animals just randomly, like when he's just fighting the bear, it's hilarious. It's one of like
Well, I feel like yeah, no, it is, but I feel like the earlier go ahead, go ahead.
it's just like I don't know. It's just pure like there's no weapons. He's just like boxing this bear. The bear's boxing him, and like the bear's like literally like biting into him, and like he's got. It's not like he just solos the bear easily, like with a laser or anything. Like he goes
Right.
after it and he like wrestles the bear for some reason. I like that touch where like you empathize a little bit with the predator. He's just
I
like
also enjoyed
right.
that her reaction to watching that was like, Jesus Christ! Like,
Right, right. Like it fits with that like kind of like grown mythology of Predator that like that it is gonna fight on the terms of the enemy. So okay, so the bear's fighting with bare hands, I'm gonna fight with bare hands, except I'll use my my Wolverine claws. But
yeah.
but
was
no
that a
no
bare
gu-
hands pun on purpose, or did
you
you?
got it. You
There we
got
go.
it.
Thank
Fight with
you.
my bare hands. So I think I like that
Yeah.
sporting nature of trying to meet him on their terms. Now that falls apart if you go back and look at the original Predator when
Yes.
Arnie had a homemade bow and arrow and
The
Boy
predator
Scout
was just
traps,
lasering
and
things.
it's just shooting like nuclear bombs at him.
Well,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you brought that because like they did a good job, and this is a thing that like it's a very different movie than the original Predator in a lot of ways. Characters figure out the Predator's technology. Like in the
Right.
fight with the
Yes.
brother, you saw her figure out that the lasers were tracking the spear points, right?
Right.
And you knew
Yep.
that was going to come back at some point. Like and it
Right.
was only in like 2 or 3 scenes, but
It was
it
just
was a little
enough.
more subtle. It was a little more subtle and a
Right.
little more like that's
Right.
going to come back. You know she's going to use that, but exactly how? Yeah. And
Right.
it was
And
good. It was good.
I think the why everyone liked it so much, whether like you were a new fan or like an old fan, was that like it simplified things, right? Do you remember the last Predator movie? Like I want to talk briefly about the last Predator movie, but
I
they
don't think I
had
saw
like
the last Predator movie, the one that came out in like 2018 or whatever.
yeah something like
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
it's so bad.
They had like a Predator Civil War, and there were two different Predators, and there was a Robo Predator, and then they had like a special spaceship, and it was just so convoluted and complex. This is
Yeah.
simplified to hunt things, and the human beings are just as dangerous as whatever, right?
Right.
It
Yep.
was about apex predators, pretty
Yeah,
much,
it
and
shrank
that
the
was a
scope.
story.
It shrank the scope, and like a tangent here, I'll try to make it. But like we talk about like Star Wars prequels and all, like a lot of movies, like when they have too much going on and try to do too many things and try to make something too epic, that's where a lot of things fall apart. And this is like, hey,
Yeah.
this Huntress is like really good, but we're gonna make this about her world and her
They're just
perspective
called hunters,
on
buddy.
these things. Sorry. Sorry.
They're just
Am I
called hunters,
sexist
buddy.
now? Am I sexist now? Damn it. Anyway, this hunter is very like they made it about. It's not just through one person's eyes, but it's on one person's scale, and you don't
Right.
need to know what's going on in the whole universe and the whole whatever. It's just this is the story we are telling.
It's kind of amazing that this is the what? All right, if you include the Alien vs Predator movies, this is the 6th sequel,
Right.
and this is the first time they thought, "Hey, back to basics might be good."
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
It's
You mean you don't
amazing it
want
took
to?
that long.
You don't want Danny Glover and a Jamaican drug lord briefly teaming up to. God, that movie was so.
Also, the
Yeah.
Predator design was pretty tight, right? Like,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
new mask, which was like it was like still like a techno mask, but it was like the covering was like a animal skull or something. It was like
Yeah, because it was still teched out that it was where the laser sight came from to aim
yeah,
the bolts that replaced the like little energy bombs,
Right.
and it still like enhanced his vision,
Right.
yeah, oh
but
yeah,
but the outer thing was the skull of something else that had presumably been
Right.
killed
yeah,
that
Right.
had the
Right.
same shaped skull as him. So
yeah,
clearly,
exactly. This fits. It
Right.
fits.
I mean, clearly something from his planet.
Yeah,
And I will say, and back to like when it knows to wink and nod, like And it gives the right amount of build up too. So when she and her brother, for those who haven't seen the fur trappers like trap them and use them as bait, and they're figuring out that we're not actually in danger because we're not a threat right now. All predator stuff. But while they're tied back to back in the center ring, while the predator's killing all the Frenchies, the you can feel the line coming with like, I don't know if we can kill this thing. And then they saw blood. I forget how that happened. You're like, say it, stay the line. And then if it bleeds, we can kill it. It's like they only did direct tie-ins, and when we get to what doesn't work, I'll talk about this briefly. But as far as like direct, overt, do the line from the movie, they do it like once or twice, and it's enough to scratch the itch.
Speaking of the French, isn't it fun how Hollywood as a whole has decided, for I don't know, the past 30, 40 years now, that in every era the French are supposed to look like they stink?
Yes, it is fun.
Yeah.
Well, and on that note, I'm so glad you said that, because what I enjoyed about this is, because a lot of times, and like when you get into like Westerns and all this from the, non-Native American, European American perspective, there's all this thing about like portraying Native Americans as savages because they're the unknown and all that. And what I enjoyed about this movie is, in this, it's centered on the framework of the Native Americans. And for the first while, like, there's not subtitles, any of this. It's like, who are these strange, stinky people? What are they saying? They're all this uncouth, and they seem barbaric. And it's the French fur trappers are portrayed as barbaric. And I thought that was it was not subtle, so subtle that you didn't get it. But it was just like, oh, to her, this is the barbaric. Who are these people? What am I experiencing?
And it was. But they also didn't bang you over the head with it.
Right, exactly.
It was just there for you to observe and see. You're like, yep.
When they first are hunting, and they bring her along for hunting skills and all that, and you see they're like, oh, that can't be wolf. That's a lion. Look at the bones chopped up there. All that's fine. For a little bit, I forgot mountain lions existed, and I'm like, why are they chasing a lion? There's not lions. And what did they not? I heard this movie was good. Did they not? And then I saw the mountain lion. I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
right.
You forgot.
Let me make sure I don't talk about this on a podcast so people won't know I'm, an idiot.
So hey, 2 for 2.
But like for like 5 minutes, I'm like, they're all lions. and then yeah. So anyway.
So
we had a confession time with Blue.
So, there's a bunch of stuff that worked. It is a fairly enjoyable movie. There's again, I'm not like a historian, so I'm not sure if it's historically accurate. But we'll go into stuff that seems, a little iffy.
Right.
Maybe it could have been changed a little bit.
Before we get to that one thing, and I think some people had this as an iffy, and I think they're wrong, and here's the... So,
okay.
Getting to the end credit thing, right? So there's not like an end credit as in like MCU end credit thing, but there's a story there's like an epilogue to the movie being told in visuals.
Yeah.
In like, paintings that are meant to look Native American. While the end credits are playing. And a lot of people speculate, so at the very end, they're recapping the whole movie as it goes. And then at the very end, they show some after the movie, shows her becoming like, Master Chief, that stuff. And at the very end, you see Predator ships coming. And some people interpreted that, combined with the fact that the pistol was in Predator 2, that like, oh no, it's not a happy ending. They attacked and took it back and all that. And that's not my interpretation of that. My interpretation of that is they did at the end of that what they did to Danny Glover. Like, congratulations, you out Predator to Predator. Let's trade some stuff. And she probably got a trophy from them, and she gave them the pistol. I'm curious for your thoughts on that, because a lot of people were like, oh no, what happened? Will that be the sequel, the Predator's attack? And it wasn't my interpretation at all.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing that first of all, I'll say one thing that again is a little strange that they didn't wrap it up neatly. And it could be that now that you said that, I could have another theory about that. But the Predator, okay, in 1719 comes in, and of course he has some less tech than he had previously, but he still has some pretty decent tech. They chop his head off. He doesn't nuke himself. So he has a ton of tech. And like she has his skull and the mask, which also has a ton of tech. And this does not appear anywhere else. Like, right? How does this get wiped away from history? Like, so maybe the predators do come, and they're like, "Can we have that back? That's ours."
I
And
hadn't
maybe
thought
that's
of
how
that.
they solve that.
I hadn't thought of that, but I didn't think of that problem, but I now think that I accidentally gave you a solution to that problem that I didn't think to exist.
Who knows? Okay, but yes. So like she has. So okay, like his body is sunk into the pit. That's fine. But they have his head and his mask, and so
Right.
like what they do with that, and it doesn't appear in like the history books or anything like that. That's that's kind of
we should
wild.
briefly say how she eventually kills him is she
Yeah.
really pretty metal, like pretty gnarly, pretty hardcore was the so she does the herbs to cool her down, has gotten a recap, and like she knocked her French guy out, cut off his leg, gets better. Gave him a gun that wasn't loaded. And so he'd look like a threat so the predator could see him, not her. Knowing the predator go after him, chaos ensues. She got the predator into a pit and had been aiming the spear gun aiming thing at the pit, fired it at her, and that's how he killed her. Now, if we're going to get into things that don't work, I will briefly... That whole setup I like the overall idea. And this is a common movie thing. This is just suspension of disbelief. This is me looking for nits to pick. That's a lot of confidence that in this battle you're going to get that thing to one spot. Now that said, you can throw it the cookie of maybe she had other ideas elsewhere. She wasn't like counting on that specific spot to work, but it was real convenient. That in all that, it ended up. So
The second part was of course the orange flower. I felt like the orange flower was just like that, again, something that doesn't exist. It's like this magical flower that somehow lowers your body temperature without killing you.
Yeah.
Well, and the second it got introduced, I'm like, oh, that's how she beats it. Like that's the
Right.
mud.
I literally
that's the
thought
mud from the first movie.
when she fell into the mud pit, like that was gonna be like, oh wow, like kind of a rehash of that. And that would have been a little cheesy, but I think the flower thing was like extra Deus Ex Machina, right? Like this one flower was like, this medicine that causes your blood temperature to drop, and you're like, that's not how things work.
Right. And they used, okay, so I think it's just too many breadcrumbs was the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Because they've like the first time where she's talking to the grandmother or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, we're out of orange Tootsia. We gotta go get orange Tootsia because we got a lower core temperature." And then later they give it to the guy who'd been mauled by the mountain lion.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm so cold," and she's like, "Well, you want him to live or you want him to be uncomfortable? He's got to get cold with the orange Tootsia."
Yeah, exactly.
And then later she gives it to the Frenchman.
Yeah.
That teaches her how to use the gun, the guy whose signature is on the gun that ends up in Predator 2.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he's like, she gives it to him, and he's like, "I'm so cold. What's happening?"
Right. It was a little too much. It was a little too much.
They just they banged us over the head with it so many times in what we've already said is a short movie.
Right.
Yes. It's like, hey, remember the orange flower, and you're like,
I was also, and this is more of it not hitting it out of the park rather than it being, but I was a little disappointed, like. When the Frenchman was using the gun, all that, like it misfires, all that, it's shown, and it's, as far as I know, accurate. This is like an early 1700s pistol. It sucks. If it's wet, it doesn't work. Right amount of powder doesn't work. Whatever.
Yeah.
I was hoping she'd just be like, "This is dumb," and goes back to her, hatchet with the leash. Which, side note, things I forgot to mention that I liked. That was a cool weapon, and the way they showed her figuring it out, like she had a hatchet, she found a strip of thing. She did a training thing, which is like, will this work? No, yes, okay, I got it. Like, they did the right amount of her figuring that thing out.
Yeah, but her unique weapon, like, she used her unique weapon, like, all the time. Even when it wasn't, like, necessary. Like, you don't throw a hatchet at a running deer. It's just, like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, of course.
No, I haven't hunted
maybe
deer.
That's why her brother was just like, maybe you're not
know.
ready. You can't use the hatchet for everything.
How many
Your
deer
dad gave you the hatchet
I haven't killed any.
to harvest flowers, all right? Like, that's why your dad gave it to you, not to throw at animals.
I feel like you're mansplaining deer hunting. I've never hunted a deer. Maybe
I've hunted deer before.
Well, there goes my theory. All right. Well, I don't know what to tell you then.
Also, we've already established that they have like really good bows because
that's true.
Her brother like quick shots a hawk out of the sky.
He quick shot, no scoped, not looking a hawk out of the
And I did like how they held, like I like how they held their bows. Like that was definitely like a research thing. instead of like when they held their bow like this
Yep.
over. Yeah, that was definitely, they looked that up. Like
Yeah,
it was.
it was.
I mean,
It was a reverse script basically for
Yeah.
people who aren't
And
watching our podcast on video that we don't publish.
they've established
yeah,
that they have really good bows and they're really, really good with their really good bows.
yeah, that's
So
fair.
her rationale for hatchet hunting a deer.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think, so overall, again, it's a short movie, which I think is overall a good decision. So this is an understandable choice. But I think early on, it was unclear to me how impressive a fighter she was supposed to be, because she's pretty badass, and other people are, and you attribute it to, and they do heavily hint it in the movie, that a lot of it's just sexism. But like early on, I couldn't tell if she was supposed to be shown as an underdog, as in like actual fighting ability, or just perception. To their credit, they cleared it up a little bit later, like when you figure, oh, her brother saved her from the mountain lion. Like, I guess he's actually a better fighter than her, and this is gonna be an arc. And later found out that he's like, no, you weakened it, and it was half dead, and I used your plan, and like, sorry, I took all the credit. So by the end of the movie, I had less of a gripe, but early on, it was unclear to me, like, so is she really good already, or is this movie about her becoming a good fighter?
Well, yeah. Also, the other scene that kind of solidified where her skill level was at was when she fought Rufio and his buddies.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and like all the 1v1s, she just wrecked house every single time.
Exactly.
And then they had to like trick her and just sucker punch her in the face to actually.
Exactly. So by the end, it's established, no, she's actually already good. But early on, it was confusing.
Yeah,
and
early on it was, yeah.
And that was probably a deliberate choice. So I don't know. Early on, I was like, what's going on here?
I mean, I know with the interpretation that there is real armor under it.
Yeah.
I can live with it. We talked about that earlier, but my take initially was that he, as far as his helmet was concerned, he had just added the vision lens and the sight thing, but that was just like a bone helmet.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't bone on top of a metal helmet. It's just a bone helmet that he added some tech to. That's a weird choice.
It is.
We're talking interstellar travel, not wearing real armor.
Yes.
So that seemed odd, but when we were talking earlier, either A, it being just the decoration, or B, like we talked about, them giving him inferior equipment because it's his first big hunt.
Or they were just like, we don't really like this guy, or like, we trained him poorly as a joke.
Like,
right. But I like your theory, Gray, or that you said earlier about like roughly trying to match it to what they're fighting. I mean, that's a good headcanon. I had something I want to add that I forget what it was. Go on. But like, yeah.
But other than that, I can't. Let's see what.
Oh yeah, one thing I'll say that, and again, this looking for nits to pick, but I mentioned this earlier before, but it's a little more pronounced in this movie, I feel like, than the others. Maybe it's because I haven't rewatched the others recently. It really bothers me that the Predator is a little bit of a wuss. Like, there's a lot of where they're fighting man to man, and he's like, invisible time, cheat code. And that just, to me, the whole thing about, like, I'm going to prove I'm the superior fighter. Now, what I was thinking while watching the movie, and, like, this is sort of my headcanon for excuse of it, is the Predator is, like, they're a game hunter, not a fighter. Like, when people are going on safari expeditions, they're not like, I'm going to mess up a lion with my hands. Like, no, I'm going to... So, if you're looking as, I'm going to kill this game, that is dangerous, it kind of works. But it then goes back to, but then you have that combined with, like, I'm going to fight this bear with my hands. I'm like, well, that's weird to have in the same movie.
Yeah. It's a little strange, yeah. Like, he fights the dog and invisible. Like, he didn't really need... It's
like, dude, just
the wolf.
Man up a little bit. Like,
again, the wolf fight is hilarious to watch, but it's also very strange because it's just like this big monster, like killing a dog-looking thing. You know, it's like strange. You know,
right?
It
big
like
man with your active camouflage. Like, it's like it's annoying. It's annoying.
Well, I think it's that the Predators, they want enough of a challenge that it's exciting.
Yeah.
Right. But they always want the edge.
Yeah, they don't want to lose. Like that's fair. Nobody goes hunting thinking that they're
no one goes hunting to get eaten by the lion. Right? Yeah, exactly.
So the Predator is Rocky Balboa, in the years between Rocky 2 and Rocky 3.
Yeah.
Like,
He's fighting all the tomato cans and his
right, like those 15 title defenses, right? Those
Yeah.
15 title defenses, like, they were real fights. Those guys had a puncher's chance,
Yeah.
but the fights were set up so he had the advantage.
Yeah.
All right,
You
I'm
know,
now picturing like a scrawny old Predator Mick stand-in, like Burgess Meredith guy, who's just like, this woman's different. You ain't ready. You gotta pull out. This killer. You gotta. I can't.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
thinking about Predator.
No,
in
I'm not
other
doing Predators
franchises.
chasing a chicken going around.
Yeah. Or when he's like, they wasn't setups. They was has-beens.
Right.
So like the Predator versus Alien stuff, right? Like when the actual movie, right? I think it was the first one or the second one, when they're in the ice cave and like the Predator's coming down and they suck because like they're like young new predators and they like just keep messing up stuff and they like just keep dying to aliens, you know?
Yeah, they're like Predator recruits.
Yeah, like they're like just out of middle school and they're just like, I gotta go predate. You know, so it's understandable, but just like oh, you know, like you're the biggest kid on the block until, you know.
Right, absolutely.
Oh God.
I mean, all that aside, I'm having a hard time coming with more things I didn't like.
Same.
Like it was solid.
I enjoyed this movie start to finish. Like I watched this movie. It's good.
Yeah. And whatever the ending was, like with like the tapestries and the extra predators coming, like whatever that is, you know, it could be like a stinger for a sequel. Who knows? Who cares? But it was still, you know, it wasn't a terrible thing. Just like, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I will say the ending too was like just the art style and the execution of it. Like early on, you're like, are they? And like, oh, the recap of the movie. You're like, oh, I remember that. Like it's well done. It's a well done.
Yeah,
credits.
They did it, and there's just like the one extra tapestry. It's like this is what happens next. And you're like,
right.
Up for interpretation.
Yeah, exactly. So let's take a moment and think really deeply about our hunt and think of what the Great Spirit has taught you about prey.
All right, I'll go first. Leash your hatchet, not your dog. You leash your dog, the dog can't run off and bring back your hatchet that you let off the leash, foolishly, because you're supposed to leash your hatchet, right at the pivotal time to not get eaten by a predator. Also, obey leash laws. Leash your dog if you live in a city or something. But
hey, for mine, keeping it simple this week.
Okay.
Just don't pick up a weapon.
Yeah.
Don't be a threat, and you get to live. That is the only through line of this entire series.
yeah, no, listen, I have the best defense against predator there is. It is a CPAP machine and my high blood pressure medication. That thing will look one look at me and be like, nope, moving on. This gray guy was in the military. Sorry, Greg. You're my defense mechanism.
Okay, so here's my moral of the story. A paleo diet, okay, will allow you to walk through a bear trap, have it snap around your ankle, but you'll still be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only because you're a paleo diet. As soon as you start taking carbs, that will break your ankle.
That'll break your bones. Oh, do we want to? Because we could just cut this otherwise. Do we want to try and rank the Predator movies, or no?
For trying to rank the Predator movies.
I don't remember all of them. I'll have to take a. Let's open it up. Let's open it up. All the Predator movies.
All right, because the only reason I'm doing this is because there are some knuckleheads out there who are saying the Predator or Prey is better than the original Predator. So I can summarize real quick. We have Predator, Arnie. Everyone knows it. We're fine.
Right.
Predator 2, Danny Glover and really, really racist gangs.
Yeah.
I think it's like Colombians and Jamaicans.
It's really racist gangs, and really like every city is going to take your skin if you go in it.
Right.
1980s.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. It's up there with Demolition Man, another one of our pod movies.
Yep.
For the city xenophobia.
Yes.
Then there is after that there was a bit long hiatus, and then there was Alien vs Predator, which was the one that was only PG-13, had very little blood, and took place in like the Antarctic weird underground Fortress of Solitude pyramid thing.
Yep.
Mhm.
That kept turning into a maze, like the lamentation configuration from Hellraiser. Then Alien vs Predator Requiem, which was a corporate attempt to hard right everyone accusing Predator Alien vs Predator of not being hardcore enough because it was PG-13.
Right.
So
Oh, I thought you meant hard
Requiem.
right, like they want to get
No,
rid of
Right.
liberal
no,
predators.
no, like hard R.
Okay.
Hard R, not hard right.
Too
In
many
which,
liberal predators.
yeah, in which a assassin predator is attacking all of the aliens in this small town, and they went like hard R, like murdering pregnant babies level. And then the Predator.
Yeah.
Which I did not see. But
No, I'm sorry. No, that's the newest one.
Predators.
Predators, yeah.
Which I did see.
Predators.
Which I did see. Yeah.
Right, which has Adrian Brody and like all kinds of bananas people. The guy from that 70s show,
Isn't Danny Trejo in that?
Danny Trejo, like random people dropped on a predator planet where they run into Lawrence Fishburne and get chased by predator dogs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the Predator, which was the one with different warring predator factions, and they were on Earth to absorb the DNA of an autistic kid so they could further evolve themselves to be better fighters.
Yeah, that's the worst right there. I'll throw that
I
at
have
the
not
very
seen it.
last.
Yup.
I have not
that
seen
is
it, and I'm suddenly
definitely
glad.
number 7 or 8 or whatever we're at, like guaranteed.
Yeah, I am with you that's at the hard bottom is that one.
It was literally.
And the sad thing is that was written by Shane Black, who is co-writer and in the original Predator.
Oh, really?
Oof.
Jeez.
He's the guy with the glasses telling the dirty jokes.
What?
Oh, dude. What?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, he helped work on the script for the original Predator, like uncredited, like helping with dialogue. And then he wrote the script of that terrible one.
All right, we got to be careful not to talk about the movies too much. I just want to say that movie was terrible. Like all the worst parts. Like,
yes.
Like it was just like, let's do like he's a special forces guy, but he's also a dad and he's got struggles. And I was like, I want a Predator myself right now. Like,
yep.
Like I'm going to my arm wrist right now during the movie. I'm like, this is over.
just.
From your description alone, I agree it's the worst. Then I would let's put it this way: other than the original Predator movie and Prey, none of them are good. Like none of them are good. Predators was probably the next best, and that was not a very good movie. Like
Adrian Brody was just not.
Yeah, it was, but it at least had like some acting and some like, hey, it's Danny Trejo, Machete, yeah, right. Like the others, like the Alien versus Predator, was not good, but it was at least like that's why I'd probably put after Predators, maybe before it. Again, this is low bar. But at least you had some like mystery. What's the history of these things? Whatever. Predator vs. Alien Requiem just like went way too like the movie was like the darkest, like physically, like there's no lighting in the movie. You can't see what's going on for 3/4 of the movie. Predator 2, God help me.
I think literally that would take an entire podcast to rate them all. Because
yeah, that's fair.
We'd go through like there's not we can't I want to talk about like the Predator right now.
There's so much.
Bad that was.
There's so many things. We have to just let's just cut all that. We're not gonna
Okay, so I guess let's do a final review. Let's give it I want to say 6 coyote skulls and spines out of 10.
Oh, I'd go higher than that. I'd give this if we're grading on the Dinner for Wolves scale, which is like we're not.
The scale doesn't actually mean anything.
But like none of these are gonna be Citizen Kane. In the world of movies we're gonna review, I'd give this 8 out of 10. I'd give it that.
Yeah, I give it 4 out of 5 improvised weapon animal skulls.
And I'll say, if we want to do the whole comparison, I think so much of why I love Predator and why it's so magical is that it's Predator. It's this moment in time. Us watching it growing up. Like, it's that movie. I think if I were to come in not having the background of Predator and just like seeing these two movies back to back, I think Predator is a better movie with all of the packaging we have for it. I think on its own, Prey might be better.
Okay. That's a good take. And
Yeah.
with that, anybody else want to add a closing statement?
I mean, if you've got Hulu, watch it. If you don't have Hulu, wait, it'll eventually be somewhere else.
That's beautiful.
Words to live by.
When I was in your
And with that, we'll end it there. Have a good night.
I played it all the way, Joe. That if I didn't watch this film, I'd miss out on the story. I played it all the way, Joe. Play, ho, watch today, we'll watch this film together. Play it all the way, Joe. Play, ho, watch today, weekends on forever. Play it all the way, Joe.